Hello, my name is John Geis. This presentation will cover three different ways of expressing milk of various components in a single number, total equivalent pounds of milk. The three methods to be discussed are fat-corrected milk, energy-corrected milk, and revenue-corrected milk. The term corrected implies that the actual milk quantity is not correct. This is not the intent of corrected milk calculations. Corrected means that the milk components are valued on a common basis and expressed in terms of equivalent milk using standard amounts of each component. To do this, a single parameter that is quantifiable for the various components is needed. This is typically calories or dollars. The USDA class and component pricing uses milk fat standardized at 3.5%, milk true protein at 3%, and other solids at 5.7%. These are the values used for standardizing corrected milk on the milkpay.com website and apps. The common basis that can be applied to all components is calories, energy, or dollars. The original concept of fat-corrected milk was to show the impact of higher milk fat on providing additional calories. Because milk fat has more calories per pound than any other component, when the fat percentage is high, it contributes a lot of calories to the milk. This concept was later expanded to include value for the higher levels of protein and was named energy-corrected milk. More recently, models have been developed using economic value to correct milk. In this discussion, that will be referred to as revenue-corrected milk. As discussed, to calculate an equivalent amount of standardized milk, there must be a common denominator for the components. Calories and dollars both provide the common denominator. If it is calories or dollars, the quantity of each component is measured in terms of its caloric or dollar value, and the individual components are then added to a single value. This is then expressed as a quantity of milk that has the same number of calories, but with a defined percentage of components. For example, the number of pounds of milk fat at 3.5% that are required to provide the same number of calories. In all cases, the equivalent value of energy or revenue can be expressed in one simple index, milk equivalent. An example would be to equate 80 pounds of milk at 3.7% fat to 82 pounds of milk at 3.5%. If the basis is calories, the value of each component is measured in terms of its caloric value, and the value of the individual components are then added to a single total value. If the basis is dollars, the quantity of each component is measured in terms of its financial value, and the value of the individual components is then added to a single total value. The corrected value is then expressed as a quantity of milk that has the same number of calories or dollars, but with a standardized percentage of components. In these examples, and in the MilkPay automated calculations, the standard is set to 3.5% fat, 3% true protein, and 5.7% other solids. Both the fat-corrected milk and energy-corrected milk calculations are based on the energy value of the major individual components of milk, and then expressed in equivalent pounds of standardized milk. Fat-corrected milk measures only changes in fat, which has the highest energy value of the components. Lower energy values are used for the remaining components, and they are assumed to never change. Only the value of changes in fat are measured. As an example, a pound of milk with 3.5% fat would have 288 calories. If that fat were 3.8%, the pound of milk would have 300 calories, 12 more. Only changes in fat are considered in the fat-corrected milk. If milk protein increased from 3% to 3.2%, it would have no impact on the fat-corrected milk value. Energy-corrected milk measures the changes in fat and protein based on their individual energy values, but other solids are assumed to never change. Only changes in fat and protein are measured. Of course, protein has a much lower caloric value than fat, In fact, it is about half as many calories per pound. Energy-corrected milk that had 3.8% fat and 3% protein would also have 300 calories, as discussed on the prior slide. However, energy-corrected milk that had 3.2% protein would have 304 calories for additional calories. In the final fat-corrected milk and energy-corrected milk calculations, the corrected numbers are expressed as pounds of corrected milk, but they are based on the caloric value. Revenue-corrected milk calculations are based on the economic value of all components based on the USDA Class 3 pricing. Like fat-corrected milk and energy-corrected milk, the result is expressed in equivalent pounds of standardized milk. These economic values change each month when new federal milk marketing order prices are announced. Compared to fat-corrected milk or energy-corrected milk, please note that the changes in weighting among components are very different. Protein now has twice the weighted value of fat, the opposite of the relative values based on calories. In all the calculations used for standardizing milk, the following values are used. As with fat-corrected milk and energy-corrected milk, the corrected milk calculation expresses a value in equivalent pounds of milk, but revenue-corrected milk is based on the financial value. Just like fat-corrected milk and energy-corrected milk, the revenue-corrected milk value is based on an equivalent pounds of milk. Based on reasonable component values, a pound of milk at 3.5% fat, 3% protein, and 5.7% other solids is worth about 16.5 cents per pound. But a pound of milk with higher 3.8% fat and higher 3.2% protein and 5.7% other solids would be worth about 17.6 cents per pound. As mentioned, fat-corrected milk only considers changes in fat. It does have the highest caloric value, so it does have the most influence. All solids not fat are given a value that never changes. In the formula at the bottom of this slide, protein is assumed to always be 3% and lactose is assumed to always be 5%. Energy-corrected milk is similar, but separates protein, so changes in protein do impact the equivalent value expressed in pounds of milk. Because the same caloric value for fat is used in both fat-corrected milk and energy-corrected milk, the coefficient of 13.84 remains the same. The remaining solid that has caloric value is lactose. The value is assumed to remain at 5% in the energy-corrected milk formula. In this example, 80 pounds of milk with 3.8% fat and 3.2% protein is calculated to contain 24,400 kilocalories. By the use of the energy-corrected milk formula on the prior slide, the energy-corrected milk would be 84.55 pounds of milk. Calculating the caloric value of the energy-corrected milk, which has more milk but lower component percentages, the same total calories of 24,400 kilocalories are available. The revenue-corrected milk formula is the same in concept as the fat-corrected milk and energy-corrected milk formulas just reviewed. The one complicating factor is the changing financial value of components. The values used in the MilkPay website and apps are the current federal milk order values for Class 3 components. This is the basis for over 50% of the milk produced in the U.S. Revenue-corrected milk is also standardized to 3.5% fat, 3% true protein, and 5.7% other solids. Revenue-corrected milk considers the financial value of the three components paid in the 6 federal milk orders that pay on components. These prices change each month, which will change the value of the revenue-corrected milk. The formula for revenue-corrected milk is more complicated. The primary reason is that the value of the components, fat, protein, and other solids, are variables, not constants. Unlike the equations based on caloric value, which rarely change, the financial value changes each month. For that reason, the website milkpay.com and the MilkPay apps were designed to reduce the complexity of the calculation to minimal inputs. The current component values are always up to date on the website and can be updated in the apps with the push of a button. Which is better, fat-corrected milk, energy-corrected milk, or revenue-corrected milk? Milk standardized based on energy value, fat-corrected milk, and energy-corrected milk do not tell the producer the economic consequences of his choices. Only revenue-corrected milk based on the financial value tells the producer the economic consequences of his choices. All of these corrected milk values serve a purpose and are in regular use in the dairy industry. Each suits a different need. Dairy is a business, and useful data helps those managing a dairy operation to maximize revenue and minimize costs. With this in mind, revenue-corrected milk is a better management tool than fat-corrected milk or energy-corrected milk. The charts that follow this slide illustrate the value of milk based on fat-corrected milk, energy-corrected milk, and revenue-corrected milk equations. They are based on $1.50 per pound for milk fat, $3 per pound for milk protein, and 40 cents per pound for other solids. At these component prices and the standardized component levels, this milk would be valued at $16.56 per hundredweight. To more fully appreciate the differences between these forms of corrected milk, the next 4 slides will show the comparative differences between these tools. The charts will show the increased financial value of the milk using each of the corrected formulas. Each of these slides will show the value of fat-corrected milk in blue, the value of energy-corrected milk in red, and the value of revenue-corrected milk in green. By comparison, the actual financial increase is shown as a dashed line. In the first example, only milk protein is increased. The blue line at the bottom represents the value of the increase by the fat-corrected milk formula. Because the fat-corrected milk formula does not give value to anything except milk fat, it shows no increased value to the milk that has an increase in protein. The energy-corrected milk shows an increase in value, but it significantly undervalues the increase in financial value. This is because milk is given a value as a caloric contributor and protein does not have a high caloric value. However, it does have the highest financial value of any milk component. Revenue-corrected milk matches the increased financial value. When milk fat alone is increased, both fat-corrected milk and energy-corrected milk formulas calculate the same value. The red and blue lines are identical. Both also overstate the value of the milk. Because fat has a very high caloric value, the equivalent pounds of fat or energy-corrected milk show a high value. Financially, the milk is worth significantly less. When milk fat and protein are both increasing, the fat-corrected milk shows the least value because the increased protein is not given any value, while energy-corrected milk shows a higher value than fat-corrected milk. It still understates the financial value of the milk. In this final chart, milk is increased by 2 pounds, and both milk fat and protein are increased equally. Again, fat-corrected milk and energy-corrected milk understate the financial value of the milk. In all cases, revenue-corrected milk exactly calculates the value of the increased milk volume, fat, and protein. Calculating fat-corrected milk, energy-corrected milk, and revenue-corrected milk can be very time-consuming. The website milkpay.com and the MilkPay apps can significantly simplify this. Simply let the application do the calculations for you.